Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Digital Transformations. Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, newsletters, email newsletters. And we're going to be talking about 7 ways to rock your email newsletter. So we're going to kick it off in a minute. And this
All
is
right, get
Andrew.
ready to launch.
Right. Andrew.
I'm Andrew. That's Cara. And we're
I'm
going to
Cara.
launch this off.
All right. I love just floating out in space like that. I just want to say it's so relaxing. Nice.
Right? Yeah, that's my favorite part of that video is Cara floating out into the
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
um,
So,
you might want to refresh your tab real quick.
yeah.
Yeah, just in case it looks frozen on my screen, but you never know.
Second.
While we're waiting, again, like Cara mentioned, we are focusing today on the 7 rules to rock your newsletter.
Yes,
And
we
like Cara said,
are.
this is one of her favorite topics. And I would like to add again, this is all about digital transformations and really about how we're using digital to really move your businesses into the next phase. And like we talked about last one in our first podcast, we talked about email marketing, and that's a big component of the traffic you own. And once you get people on your email list, there's a lot of cool things you can do. So let's get started.
Yeah. And definitely, show up in the chat and tell us where you're from. And also, if you have newsletter questions or things that you're finding that work for you or that you have questions about, let us know.
That's a good one. Yeah. Always, if you have questions or thoughts while we're talking through, we always like to make this as interactive as possible and have a lot of fun. We're both from California and originally from Colorado. So
yes,
like to kind of always share kind of fun what's going on. I got the nice tropical trees behind me. So, all right. So this podcast today is based off of our original article that we wrote up about 7 rules to rock your newsletter. And talk a little bit about newsletters and why they're important real quick. And before we think about what are the
7 rules to rock. Yes, newsletters are, I like to say that they're the new old thing. That is a great way, one of the most effective, cost-effective, and effective ways to reach your customers. And that's because but let's back up a little bit. Email newsletters in the old days, they were kind of boring and kind of whatever. And, they were just not that exciting. But now with new technology and I believe new storytelling focuses to talk to people like they're your friends and your family, that kind of thing, and take it away from that newsletter feel to more of a letter feel to a family member, a friend across the country, something like that. So yes, nowadays email newsletters are one of the best ways to meet your customers. And the beautiful thing about it, I heard somebody say a long time ago, when somebody gives you their email address, they're inviting you into their living room as a business owner. So that's a very trusted place to be. And the fact that they did that, they want to hear from you. They're excited about what you're doing as a service or a coach or a business, whatever that is, they're excited to hear from you. So when they sign up for that, they want to hear. And so that's going to be one of the first things that we talk about in the 7 rules to rock your newsletter. But if we look at it at newsletters as just, talking to a friend, maybe writing an old handwritten letter to a friend and how excited they were and how excited we were to get that letter, that's what an email newsletter nowadays can do. So I'm very passionate about this topic, you can tell, and I can't wait to
Yeah.
dive into 7 things.
And another component to that is once you build that trust and you invite it into there, how does that trust and that warmth also lead to, getting you business? And a lot of people, that how does that connection made as well? And what is that fine line between, just a friend in the newsletter as well, but also on the other side of just a newsletter or a sales letter where you just see ads and things like that. So we're going to get all into those
Yeah,
points. So
exactly.
Cara had a really good introduction. So we'll pull that back up and we're going to go to the first section here. And, we talked about the first rule here, and that's to start your automated welcome email. And maybe I can get started with that one, Cara.
Yeah, you bet.
To me, more of a technical component, but automated emails are when you sign up to a newsletter, you can automatically have your email marketing software kick off a newsletter or a welcome email to both notify them that they've been put onto the list and that their trust in you has been acknowledged, and as well as maybe introduce a little bit more about what they signed up for, some expectations, and maybe you to reiterate, here's what you may expect coming from our newsletter list and our newsletters and our mails, and are those going to kind of reinforce the things as the reason why you signed up from the original thing. So I mean, that's kind of the tactical component for that. But what's your thought on this part of that?
Yeah, that's a super good point, Andrew. It's a very tactical, beautiful opportunity with your email server. And the thing about that also is that I know personally, I've signed up for email newsletters of, say, a product that I'm really excited about. One of them recently was the Remarkable thing. It's like a tablet that you draw on. You only draw on it. And I was like, ooh, this sounds really good. So I signed up for a newsletter and I'm getting it. It's not turning out to be what I wanted it to be, but that's okay. I'm learning that through the newsletter. But I think one of the saddest things is when I find a company or a coach or something that I'm really excited about what they're doing, and I want to get that in my living room. I do. And I sign up for it and I send it out there on their form, and crickets happen, and it's very sad. Very disappointing because I was so interested in that thing and nothing comes. There's no welcome email. Sometimes they don't even have an email newsletter set up, and that's another thing. But without that welcome email, you kind of, all that excitement is kind of like, okay, never mind, and you kind of forget about it. So anything to add? Have you had that experience, Andrew?
Yeah, I've had I think when you're in digital marketing, and we're also looking for fun stuff online as well, we'd like to sign up for a lot more than most normal. You might not normally sign up that many, but I think that I'm going to mention this as well, and I'm going to bring up an example one so we can kind of see what it looks like, maybe from a mailer's perspective. But a lot of times I really judge a company or try to judge a company by that initial email. How long does it take? Does it wow me? I mean, sometimes if you're going to have any email that pops, I remember, I don't remember the company, but I guess it doesn't help. But there was one company that was famous for their welcome email, and they got millions of subscribers because they had such an amazing email, and people just would resubscribe every few months just so they could get that fun email, because there was so many fun components to it.
Mhm.
And so I think it even had like a little dog running around, and it was like, it's so excited to see you, and Sparky's so excited to see you, or something. I guess the point of it is like, yeah, definitely have had a lot where you sign up and you don't get anything, or the email saying you've been subscribed, which is kind of a lost opportunity,
Right.
because a lot
Right.
of times there's, they may not know all the things that you do as well, and they might be interested on some specific thing. But then you also say, we also do this and this and this, and it might be something you're looking for, because it's probably a company
Mhm.
and a topic that you might be interested in.
Right.
And I guess the other thing, and Kari, maybe it would be interesting, your thought on this. But I remember, a lot of times, we're always in this digital age where everything is online. But
Mhm.
on the other side too, a lot of times, have you signed up for those where you actually write your name down on a list, like
Yes,
at a physical
indeed.
booth or something?
Yes,
Mhm.
indeed. Like at a trade show or something.
Yeah,
And
and you're like, oh, I'm so excited, and I talked
yeah,
to Jane, and she was
yeah,
so engaging, and they told me about all this
yeah.
exciting stuff, and they promised
Mhm.
me that it's going to be the most exciting newsletter on the
And
planet.
then,
Yeah.
nothing happened.
And then you don't hear stuff for months. And I remember we were at I think a local trade show or something,
Uh-huh.
and I signed up to it was a history wine something. I don't remember what it was, but
Mhm.
I signed up to the thing, and literally, I think 6 months later, I remembered I signed up because I got their first newsletter 6 months
Mm.
later. It was
Right.
their first newsletter from when I signed up, and I was even more. It was a really interesting newsletter, and I was even more bummed out that, why did it take 6 months?
Mhm.
It's all about informing people. It was an information project, and there was no automated. If they would have just, even if it would have took 6 months, it could have been a welcome email saying, "Hey, we're creating this most amazing thing. You're
Mhm.
going to get
Right.
an email in a few months." And I would have set that expectation. So I actually
Exactly.
remember that really painfully
Yeah.
clear on that one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a really, really good point, Andrew. If you're in a company and you're developing your newsletter, yeah, set up the welcome email, but set that expectation, like, we're so excited to be crafting this and we can't wait to send our first issue. It's going to be a couple of weeks or a couple of months, but people will be like, cool, I'm ready. Oh, I'm looking forward to that. But yes, just set that
yeah.
expectation.
And two tips on this one is, one is, a lot of times if you do have a sign up form online, if you do, it's so great to get people signed up manually, but you can actually put a QR code that goes to your sign up form right there, and
Mhm.
so people can
Yes.
get signed up right there, and within 5-10 minutes they can get her while they're at the event. That's a pretty cool feeling,
Even
and I've been
that's a
in
super
the
cool.
good sign too, where especially like we go to trade shows like CMI or other things, like you
Mhm.
literally get emails within 10 minutes, and they're inviting you back to set up a meeting to meet with them that same day sometimes. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
it's done really well. And the other thing
Mhm.
is, a lot of times your staff can take that list that day when they get back, and then they can type in each of those. And that day that people would get the welcome email, they would
Mhm.
type it right into the form.
Yeah.
But let me just show real quick. Might be fun to
Mhm.
show um, a little example of a welcome.
Mhm.
Um, this is just a fake one, of course. And one of the things we've learned, and again, we're not going to get real detail in this, but it might be fun, is this is a one that we use called Mailer Lite, but this is a general automation sequence, right?
Mhm.
And the first step is that there's a here is a trigger, and a trigger is usually the form submits it to a specific group. And we like to set up a group that's mainly for the first bucket of things, so that it actually goes into the bucket, it sends the email, and then it moves you from that bucket into the main email list. So in this case, there's a group that you have as a trigger group. It triggers, it says these people have been added to this group. It waits however long you want this to do, and this could be used for some really exciting drip series emails. And then you format your email with your exciting, we have a test
Mhm.
step with even emoji in there. And then we move them directly to a group. And a lot of times it's good to let them know, hey, if it's from an opt-in and you let them know that you're moving them, just so that
Mhm.
they're setting expectations.
Right.
Kara's very familiar with it. She loves these automations as well. But
Hmm.
this is a
Good.
basic welcome series, or a single step series automation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else to add on automations, Kara?
Yeah. No, just
Or
to
welcomes?
reiterate,
Welcome.
it's such a nice opportunity to have that first touch point with your customer or your fan, and to take advantage of that and make it a really special experience.
All right. All right. So that's number one. Set up your automation email.
Number
The
1,
next one.
yes. Yes, number 2. Oh, I wanna read that quote really quick, Andrew. This is Ann Handley. She is a person, a really good writer, a marketing writer that I respect, and I get her newsletter, and I love her newsletter, and I look forward to it all the time. And she says, "The most important part of a newsletter is the letter, not the news." So again, it's that envisioning writing to your friend across the country with a pen and piece of paper and sticking it in the mail, that kind of thing. So I like to really think about that the newsletter is more about the letter and not the news, which
All
goes
right.
into the next point.
What topic here, Kara?
Second topic is envision writing to one person.
All right.
So that, we've all gotten a newsletter or a automated email of some sort that they might even say, "Dear valued customer." And how warm and fuzzy does that make us feel? Not very much. It's not personalized at all. And while your newsletter doesn't have to have the script that has their first name, as you're writing the newsletter, really keep in mind a person that is a customer that you can envision. I use the word like Stuart and Sally, two people that are customers, and we know what they like. We know kind of what excites them about the brand or something like that, but really actually writing it to a person. It could be your mom, it could be if she's a person that would be involved with your business, writing it to your best friend, but really keeping in mind a human being that you're writing to, and making it about them and they're in the story as well.
Yeah, and I like to think of that as your avatar of your who your customer is. And
Hmm.
I know some of the people we work with and some of the clients we work with, they have, a lot of times very, um, you know, um, clear vision of who their customers are.
Hmm.
And also a lot of times they get feedback from those customers about the newsletters. And so and it's good talking with the people you write for your newsletters, or if it's your customers, to really like think about that specific person and writing it to it as if you're writing that person. So
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't think Kara writes a lot of the content of the newsletters and stuff, but definitely when I read them, there's this really nice vision of it really feels warm and that they're talking to me, even if there's some aspect of an offer or value proposition that they're sending back. So I
Hmm.
really think that's a good thing to think about.
Hmm.
And I think there's some aspects to this later on too, right, Kara? We'll talk more about
Right.
that, but
Hmm. Yeah.
so the first step again back was the automation. You start the relation off strong, right, and
Exactly.
then who
Hmm.
are you writing to in that one person? And so
Yeah.
this one's a good one. Maybe we just kind of go back and forth, but
Yeah.
including a personal story. So kind of what's your thought on it? What's that mean to you, Cara?
Yeah, and this is going back to that, help it be more of about the letter than the news. So in every newsletter, I always like to include a personal story from the business owner, and that can be it can be anything about what's going on in the business, meet the team, meet the shop dog, if you have a dog at your office, that kind of thing. But it brings your reader into your life as a business owner and as a provider of something that they're interested in. So one of the best examples we have a boutique lodging client, and we do their monthly newsletter. And when COVID hit and nobody was traveling, their business just, you can imagine how hard that was. So in their newsletter, we really made a point of sharing what that was like for this couple, this business owner couple, and not the, oh my God, it wasn't to get sympathy and that kind of thing. It was just share, this is our world. Like, we're so used to having you as our loved guest come and visit us, and we can't see you right now, and we really miss you, and we can't wait to have you back. And people wrote back to them. They called the B&B and said, we're just concerned about you and hope you're doing well, and we love you guys, and we'll get back there as soon as we can. And it truly created this connection with their guests, which they had anyway, but it really deepened it. And over the months, we've continued that idea of sharing what's going on at the B&B this month. Maybe
Yeah.
it's they're
And
having,
that one
yeah, go ahead.
newsletter in a good way, that from the beginning, 2 points to that is that
Mhm.
authenticity.
Yes.
We don't see authenticity as much as we want
Right.
online. And when you feel somebody truly talking to you and sharing a little bit about
Mhm.
a story or some things, that how things are affecting them, and again, most of the people we work with, we're lucky to work with people always, is that, people that truly are providing value,
Mhm.
and thus, people are really happy to help people, especially not help, but can continue to understand of how to contribute and be part of that. And we made a really nice, we work with them on presenting a really nice offer, and maybe business ahead of time,
Mhm.
and buying rooms ahead
Mhm.
of time, and they sold out, a lot, a
We
good
did.
amount of rooms for the whole
Thank you.
year from
Yeah.
that one newsletter, and then continued that momentum, as Cara said, over the
Mhm.
next few months.
Yeah.
So the two things I think about this on my side, Cara, is that authenticity, and we tell stories, and you want to talk a little bit about the scab and the scar a little bit, and what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I wish I remembered which motivational speaker this was, a coach I heard, but she talked about when you're sharing something, being authentic and sharing your true self with your audience. Talk about the scar, not the scab. So talk about, I earned this scar with this really cool story, and I jumped off this cliff, but I lived and it was awesome. So share that and the growth that came through that, not the really the messy part in the middle. That gets a little too personal. But when we shared, like with this client, that just what it's like to not have guests there, that was really sad for them, and they missed that. So sharing that part of things. So yeah, share the scab, not the,
Yeah. And I
sorry,
also think of that
describe
also
yeah,
in
yeah,
recentness as well, and not necessarily
yeah,
necessarily the messy parts. It could be the messy parts of a long time ago too, but it's also
mhm,
of that, maybe when it feels like a scab, or it feels like it's really fresh and there's a lot of
right,
wounds right there, like maybe you're not ready to talk about that right now, and so you
mhm,
might want to work
yeah,
through those things. And sometimes you can feel the balance of line on, sometimes you feel online people are like, wow, they're really getting out there, and
mhm,
maybe it might be a little bit too much, or that this is what I got from it, and this is how I overcame it, and this is how,
exactly,
well, I didn't overcome it, but this is what I've learned from it, and it really
mhm,
made me a stronger person because of that.
yeah,
So that was a really,
exactly.
I like that.
Yeah, the perspective. Uh-huh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. All right. What's the next one, Cara?
The next one kind of morphs on that a little bit. Make it personal, and by that I mean use the word "you" when you're writing your newsletter. Use the word "you" instead of that third person, he, she, they, that kind of thing. Really make this about the person who's reading it, so it brings them into the story and into what you're sharing with them, because they are the hero of this newsletter. So use the word "you." And I always say, if you run out of fingers of how many times you've used the word "you," you're on the right track. So keep going.
Yeah. What's my thought on this one? I think when I say making it personal, um, I just had a thought on that. Let me pull it up, and maybe it will come to me. Um, yeah, I do think, like, Cara talked about it, it's going to a specific person and you're talking to the person. A lot of times,
Mhm.
well, I think that might be a fun uh, example for us to find some examples of this of other people's writing and other newsletters, and that'd be
Mhm.
fun to share some examples of this. But I had some other thought, but it's not coming to me right now, so we can move on to the
It'll
next.
come. It'll come.
Yeah, yeah. All right, and this is the Cara-ism, but share special offers, not just special offers. And what do you mean by that? By
Exactly.
the way, the nice little cat
A little cat,
helping Dad buy
little
her the little. I call it the little mouse that makes lots of noise.
little
So
helper
he's
cat.
like, "Can you help me buy that?" But yes, share special offers, not just special offers.
Exactly, exactly. My analogy for that is, and they still publish them because it serves a certain market. But those coupon packs we all get in the mail with the envelope, and there's like 50 coupons of windows and tires and carpet cleaning and all that stuff. Well, our newsletter isn't a pack of coupons. And sometimes if we do have a lot of offers and excited things and 2-for-1s and buy one get ones and all that stuff, it's tempting to just pack our newsletter with just like all these virtual ads and boxes and offers and stuff. And it for me, it's like, oh, I don't want the pack of ads in my in my newsletter. So I think it's really nice to sprinkle in some sweet offers for people that are really juicy and they love that. But to make a whole issue of it, it gets, for me at least, a little overwhelming, and it starts to feel a little spammy. Now that said, I think if your company is has a bunch of offers at once for some reason, to make that like a special newsletter, a special issue, and make it known that that's what this one's going to be about. But in general, to try to keep your newsletter, again, more letter, not so much news, and the coupons and the offers are very much the news thing. So kind of keep it light.
Yeah, and I would add on to that, like, I know we work with wineries as well, and
Mhm.
a lot of times they have their 2 times a year, 3 times a year sales, or when
Mhm.
you do your pickups, right? Those are the fun times, right?
Mhm.
Um, but right, but at that same time, they may have all their special offers and things like that, and it might be 90%. Here's what's going on. Here's how to pick it up, and all that kind of stuff. But it
Mhm.
also doesn't mean that maybe even though that might be a focus letter, a sales letter, it still doesn't mean like, hey, it's that time of year. One paragraph. At a
Mhm.
minimum, it doesn't hurt to put a little bit in there
Yeah.
and just say, hey, we're thinking about you. you know, Here's what happened this month, just real short, but we're so
Right.
excited. This is the time that we get to see you again or whatever, and come pick up your wine. And you also get these offers of special deals on the wines and things like that, or whatever
Mhm.
you're selling. So,
Right.
that if you do have that, if you can put a little bit in there, or, but just, and also if you're going to do that, don't make it it's kind of like social posts. Like, you don't want to put every single one,
Mhm.
like, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy
Right.
my stuff.
Exactly. Yes. Well said.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next thing. So that's good. Not just special offers. Why don't you talk about this next one here?
Okay, number 6, drum roll, number 6. Help your readers share your newsletter. So again, if you're providing juicy news and lots of letter in your newsletter, and your readers really like it, they're likely going to want to share it with their friends and family and people that they work with, that kind of thing. So just make it easy for them to do that. Maybe have a button link in your newsletter that they can forward to a friend, or the actual link they can forward to a friend, or something like that.
Yeah, and we've gotten this a lot, and a lot of people like, we love your newsletter, or a client newsletter as well,
Mhm.
and they might say, um, you know, they sometimes they actually write back to the client and they ask, is it okay for me to forward this newsletter?
Mhm.
That's a nice, like, that's a good feedback for them to
Yeah.
tell us, right? And we're like, wow, that must mean they really like it. But and I think, over time, Kara's developed some really nice ways to just make a little box or a little button to say share newsletter or whatever. It just could be at the bottom or whatever, but
Mhm.
make it known. Oh yeah, I like this. Let me share it. So
Right.
again, we started off the relationship well. We have nice stories with stuff, and people like, I want to to give back, but also like, how do I
Mhm.
share this cool, there was this really cool picture, or this,
Right.
this story, or
Right.
our lodging client went to this new restaurant in town, and I want to share that restaurant and the
Mhm.
picture and some of the things they ate. So, how do we kind of use that? So,
Exactly.
um, I think this is an amazing topic to talk about. This could be a whole podcast, but we're not going to go into that deep.
Mhm.
But keep the layout easy, breezy, and readable.
Yes.
That totally makes me think of Cara when I say easy, breezy, readable. But um,
Nice.
easy,
Nice.
breezy, and readable. Like,
Mhm.
I'll just start off with a short thought on this, Cara, because
Okay.
this is your specialty, and I have some actual questions, some questions for you on this. But to me, sometimes even a really good thing can be too much,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
sometimes you see some stuff and you're like, this is great, this is great, this is great, and you're like, okay, okay, let's get to the good stuff. I'll have to go back to a thing that happened yesterday. It's actually pretty fun, but
Yeah.
it's like a good webinar. I don't know if you've
Mhm.
all been to a good webinar, and if you're digital marketers too, this is important for you to hear. But um, a good webinar is like 10-15% of sharing the benefits and the transformation and why it's so important. And sometimes you have people on your webinar that are already bought into the whole thing.
Mhm.
And so I get it that you want to sell. So sometimes you might have an hour and a half or hour and a half webinar, and then you spend 55 minutes telling me why it's so important and why this is so important, and here's my life, and here's what your life can be. And eventually, like, I'm here for what you're trying to teach me and tell me, like,
Right.
and webinars you can't fast forward. So you're like, and that's how if you see a lot of drop offs on your webinar, and you say, well, and you'll get these questions, you'll see them in the chat. Are uh is there a replay? Is there a replay? People are like, that means that it's a subtle hint of like, okay, I want to skip to the good stuff. You're taking too long, and maybe we're talking too much on this point, but I'm joking around. But Kara, what do you think about easy breezy and readable? What's your
Yes.
secret
Well,
techniques for this?
that's a really good point content-wise, Andrew, because there's that line of keeping it interesting and telling a story and inviting people in, and then getting to like the, you know, the climax of the story, like what's next and what are people really there to learn. So that's a really good point. I was also thinking about layout wise for a newsletter. So
Mm,
we've all seen, and I have been guilty of this. I've come a long way in my marketing writing over the years. But, when we're reading a book, like a printed book, a paragraph can be this big and we'll just read it. It doesn't phase us at all. But seeing that much dense copy on a website, on an email newsletter is like, oh, don't have time. Even if it won't take long to read, your brain goes too much.
chunkable.
I'll come. It's not chunkable at all. It's just
Chunkable. You're
dense.
talking like when you look
Yeah,
at it, you see
yeah,
breaks and pauses and
right.
headers and subheaders, and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, so even if you have a lot of copy, just take some time and it's become, Andrew said, it's been kind of an art that I've developed, and I guess so. But even if you have a lot of copy, you can still take it and make shorter sentences or break it apart a little bit. Take some of the content and put it into bullet points, or bold some things, and not be spammy bold things, but just make it really easy for the eye to read and get through the copy. Another great thing to do is subheads. So if you have a
Yeah.
longer section of copy, is your subheads pull people through your content and make it all just
Yeah.
kind of flow like a river. It's a really
And
good
I
way to
think
do it.
you're a good newsletter, and I always joke around with Cara. Sometimes with a lot of our clients, I actually don't, like to read the newsletter up front if I don't have to. You maybe check for things, but I actually like to read the newsletter after it comes out, because I enjoy our newsletters and working with our customers so much on different things that it's really nice for me to see it in that way. And I love it because, like Cara said, they're chunkable, so you can scan through it real quick. Then you go back up to the top, or you find something you like, and then you go in it, or you see a picture you like, and then you go back up to the top. And I think a lot of people do that, especially nowadays with so much email, right?
Mhm,
We
right.
scan it, we find something we like, we read it, and then we're like, this is worthwhile. Wow, that was a really nice sense. And then you move back up to the top.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably how a good landing page or a good, sales page works as well. But, and I would also say, Cara, and maybe you can speak to this because this is one
Mm-hmm.
of your things that I think that, you have a lot of experience with. But a lot of times, Cara has written for magazines and articles and stuff. And a lot of times the magazine article probably says, hey, you have 1,500 words or
Right.
X number of words that fit in that thing, and when I think of stuff, when I think about that, I think, oh my gosh, I have to write 1,000 words. Like, how do I come up with that much thing? It's like not a copy person as much as Cara. And so I think about how do you get that much information? And I think Cara is the opposite. She's like, how do I move it back down from 1,500 to 1,000? And it's probably harder to refine it. And so, especially newsletter and how to refine it, what would you say? It's probably hard to put magic into a bottle, but how do you say some of the things you think about when the newsletter might be too long or you have too much information in the spot? Like, how do you bring that down into a manageable,
Yeah, it
like,
is.
refinement of like alcohol, right? Like the little dripper, and then it goes
It
back to the
is.
top.
Mhm. It is. It is really distilling it down. So I look at phrases that aren't really moving the story. They're really interesting. I might love the phrase. It's a beautiful turn of words, but it doesn't move the story along, or it's really not. It's really pretty and it sounds great, but it's not essential. So I try to keep it. I also try, that's a good point, Andrew. I also try to, or it's always my goal to kind of put the information at the beginning of the paragraph. And that goes completely contrary, if any of you journalism people are out there, the old days of the inverted triangle. Nowadays we want to really front load the important things at the beginning so people that are scanning get that. They don't have to read the whole thing to get the date and the time of the event. They can get it right at the beginning. You go, oh, I'm interested, I'll keep reading. So it's really keeping your reader in mind and keeping it fun and light. That's the best way I can put it. And you're right, Andrew. True story. When I first started writing for magazines, probably, gosh, 15 years ago, I'd have an assignment of, back in the day, you got more words as a writer for magazines. Now you get 800, and I do 800 word articles now, but I'd get like 1,800 words. So I'm like, cool, or 2,000 words, cool. So of course, my first draft would be, I'm kidding you, I'm not kidding you, 4,000 words. And then I'd have to cut it by half and cut it by half and cut it by half. And that's painful. It's really painful. So it's a lot
But I
nicer
think it
to
comes out a
know.
better product in the end, right?
What's that?
It comes a better product out in the end, I
Oh,
think,
it does. It
yeah,
does.
because it's really down to what's the most important
It
about
does
that.
for sure.
I think
Yes.
that's
Well,
truly, but again, and for people that aren't as much as writing like myself or other people, like, I think that writing, the more you write, I would, that's just probably a skill that we continue to evolve. And I think,
mhm,
one last thing I think to end this, and we'll kind of, before we kind of do a recap of the whole 7 things real quick. One, I put the full article, and I think there's a lot of nice tips and that. And again, we can scroll through it really quick. It's very readable and chunkable. Check it out. Let us know what you think. And what do we need to add, or what other tips do we miss?
mhm.
We'd love to hear
Yeah,
your thoughts.
exactly.
But truly, the whole point of this whole thing is that all of us have value in the world that we want to give out and share with people with your products and services.
Mhm,
And again, this is a digital marketing, selling your stuff. But if people don't find your stuff and you don't have an avenue and a venue to share these with people, then we're really missing out. And we were just on a coaching call, helping some people out with some of
mhm.
their things, and they truly have a gift to give the world, and they're working on a new venture. And it's really just about relaxing and using some of these things and telling your story and how it relates
Mhm.
to the value that you're going to give them. And I think there's so many people that have value in sharing their businesses and their food and their
Right.
lodging and their wine and their copy services and digital marketing like us, but also we need to tell our stories of the things that we've learned and those scars, and also telling about how we're true people and we're really working. We're alongside the journey with all of you. So don't be afraid to share your stories out here. That's why we're here, to teach digital marketing, in the sense, not teach or share our digital marketing ideas and thoughts and our stories, so that you can tell your stories and we can learn and go along the journey with you. So, that's my thought. What's your kind of end
Yeah. Oh,
thing
that's
for
so
you
true,
and
Andrew. So,
sharing? And
yes, I love the heart to heart and the human to human connection and communication that words can foster. So it doesn't matter that it's all online nowadays or virtual meetings or whatever, we still have that heart to heart connection. We're still human beings connected. And I think that gets lost along the way sometimes. And the more we can just be us, like the thing about just be you, because you is the best person out there that's ever going to be you. Nobody else can be you. So just be yourself, and yeah, we're all on this journey together. How exciting is that?
yes, and with that, Kara and I are Blue Ascension, and we are, what we do is we do digital marketing for companies, and also we enjoy sharing what we've learned and do with you. Um, and we'd love to hear what other things that you want to learn, or we can learn together, or that we want to do more of these podcasts. We got a number of these ready to go, and we're ready to push them, to share these things with you. But definitely in the comments, or get a hold of us on our social media channels.
Mhm.
You can find us on social media, or you can go to our website and learn more about us. And there's a meeting buttons if you're of a business and you want to start your own newsletter up. But we're here to have some fun with you and take that journey along with you. So,
Exactly.
we'll do a little recap, and then we're excited to continue to do this with you. So,
Exactly.
give me a second here. Last, as like we said, I would say articles are kind of like a newsletter to a certain degree, huh?
They are. They're just a little bigger. Yep. But same
Yeah.
easy flow, talk to your reader. Yeah, all that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
again, we talked about starting with that welcome email message. Let's start at the relationship op strong.
Hmm.
Cara did the really
Yeah.
nice quote: "The most important part of a newsletter is a letter, not the news." Right.
Right. Anne Handley. Yep. Envision writing to one person. Hmm.
Right. That who's your target, and who
Right.
you're looking at to talk. Right.
Yep.
The story we talked about is the sharing your story, and if it's a deep story, the scar, not the scab. That's a fun
Hmm.
envisioning thing,
Good
right?
analogy. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Make it personal. Really
Right.
right to the person that you're writing to.
Yeah, authenticity, and
Hmm.
a little bit about one, and share your offers, but not just always offers and only offers. So there's a lot
Right.
there. We talked about that.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yep.
I thought
Yeah.
that
Help your readers share your newsletter. So
Kara
help
had a really
help
good
them
point.
help you. Exactly.
Yeah, just like the cat's helping the guy buy the little shaking mouse, you
Exactly.
too can help your readers share your newsletter, because you're doing such good work doing it, right? And
Hmm.
then I think uh, Kara said, and just like we talked about articles and things, like keep it clean, and refine down what
Hmm.
you really want to say, and
Right.
we only get better at this over time, so don't think about it too much. So we're Blue Ascension, and we're excited to share this
Mhm.
with you. So we're gonna have our fun video take you out, and we will talk to
Well,
you soon.
yeah, we'll see you in the next show.
All right.